Zach, how's it going, bud? Well, this week we've got actually our very first guest from Saskatchewan. And anyone that's spent any amount of time in Saskatchewan knows what kind of outstanding fishery that they have. And we're going to talk a little bit about everything this evening. And we've even got some stuff. I had to make sure I was twinning for my boy Chris. We got Lee coming on later. We got Mitch coming on later. We're going to talk a little bit about the Cold Lake experience, as I will call it, which I did end the skunk, but it did not continue for 3 days. But it's not all about that. This week, we're going to introduce our guest, Mr. Chris Holliday. Chris, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, we had some fun last night with the 5 questions with. It put you on the spot for a few things. And really, the whole idea behind 5 questions with is to kind of set pace for our show this evening. And we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. And
that's why we did the Blue Jay thing too, right?
Right. I noticed the banner on your wall last night. I did the 5 questions with in my Blue Jays hat.
Yeah.
I didn't know you would be wearing Blue Jays stuff, but, you know, we have to be patriotic on this show. I can't support the Expos anymore. And any of us, you know, in our age group, we're still living the Carter times, right? So
for sure.
Would you say this is the year?
I had that as my ringtone on my phone for years. There's a driving a belt.
Everyone, like a good fishing hook, remembers exactly what they caught with it, what they were doing the day he made that hit, right? So yeah. I'm still up there. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking this is the season from the way everyone's talking.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like 30 years ago.
But I'm a Flames fan as well, so we've been saying that about the Flames since the McDonald days. Anyways, we're not here to talk about sports. We are fishing-related sports.
It's a sport.
It is a sport.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if you're a grouch. I already wished everyone a national do a grouch a favor day.
Well, if you ask my wife and my daughter, I'm probably considered a grouch. So
I would say I'm up there. I mean, I'm kind of borderline between diva and grouch. I already did a shout out to a few of the grouches I know today. So I guess it's like virtual hug with these new normals kind of idea. So, you know, that's just how it works, right? Well, we got a lot of people checking in on the show. If anyone has questions during the show, if we don't get to them while we've got Chris on here, I'll make sure that we scroll through them there. And on our little open forum towards the end of the show, we'll be able to get them in case I miss any of them now. So, Chris, really, we start off every show with our guests as to where you got your passion for fishing in the outdoors. What introduced you to it, and what gives you that drive?
Well, like I touched on last night, I'm from a small town, Saskatchewan, southeast corner, Mooseman. I lived 10 minutes away from Mooseman Lake. So when I was a kid, I used to, during the summer, me and one of my best buddies when I was a kid, we used to get dropped off there in the morning, and we just go fishing. We go shore fishing, and we'd stay out there all day until one of our parents came and picked us back up. And it just turned into a passion then. I still remember the first rod that my dad bought me, like the first actual rod that was mine and not his, you know, like it's just some of those things you just never forget. Right. And then from there, you know, I fished on and off throughout the years. Even when I moved to BC for 12 years, I fished a little bit, not a whole lot. You know, you're in your 20s, you're finding yourself, whatever. I moved back to Saskatchewan 14 years ago, got back into shore fishing, did a whole lot of it, became a really good shore fisherman. Then I said, you know what, it's time for a boat. Got on the boat, and now you can't keep me off the water. I'm out there during the summer, I'm out there during the winter. It doesn't matter. I'm out there as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing better. I have the opposite mentality, is that I have so many friends with boats. It's the reason I haven't bought one. And unfortunately, I don't know what it's like for you and some of your friends, but I find typically that boat is not on the water enough if I do have it. So I have my pontoon once last year. The other one, we won't talk about that subject, but once last year, I have a feeling that I'd probably have to move my office to the boat because I would never be home with it. So do you get out quite a bit, open water in your boat?
My boat is almost hooked up to my truck every single day. And I live a half hour away from some very serious walleye lakes here in Saskatchewan. I will leave work at 5:30. I'm on the water by 6:15, and I will fish till dark. I've come back in the dark, where I'm having to putz along because I can't see what's in front of me. I'm out there as much as I can. So
yeah, even though I don't have a boat, I can say that with my business, I am on the road throughout the city a lot. We have the Bow River here, which is just awesome for trout.
Yeah.
So I'm going to admit I'm guilty of at least, I try for an hour a day. That gear is out of my truck and I'm on the river. Last year didn't happen so much, but yeah, I mean, you have it, you might as well enjoy it, right? So,
for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. I would probably do the same.
I spend all day sitting in front of a computer. When I get home, I don't want to do that. I want to get out and enjoy what's around me.
As we seem to be saying a lot this year, it's just good to get out, right?
Yeah.
Well, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization, the Natural Born Fisherman?
Well, the Natural Born Fisherman, we started out as the Rusty Hooker Fishing Co. Back in 2016. We made some progress. We had some gear. I mean, you can see one of the hats I'm wearing here.
My favorite.
Yeah. Hoodies, T-shirts. We have some lures, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, we had to change tactics a little bit, and I've rebranded as the Natural Born Fisherman. And right now I'm focusing on increasing my social media presence and so on. Almost up to 4,000 people on Facebook liking my page. Once I get there, then I'm going to start getting back into the decals and the rulers and, the hoodies, T-shirts, that kind of stuff. It's a lifestyle brand. It's something that when you're out, someone looks at it and go, "Oh, you like to fish, do you?" That kind of stuff, right? So it just opens up that conversation. We have the Natural Born Fisherman as my regular site on Facebook, but then I also have the fishing forum on there too, where I want people to go on and share their experiences about fishing, not just in Saskatchewan. I'm talking Canada, North America, the world. I have people on there from Asia. I have people on there from Europe. I have people on there from Australia. Go on there. Tell us about your experiences. I'd love to learn as much as I can about fishing. And where I am landlocked in central Saskatchewan. I want to learn these things. So go on there and post your stuff, post your videos, post your pictures. If I have questions, I'm going to ask.
Yeah, I agree with you so much. And it's funny that you actually bring that up, because I've had a few people ask me, why is it on the other line Canada? Does that mean you're just going to be stuck to like Western Canada? Like, is that? And it's similar to what you're explaining is you want to be able to hear experiences from everybody. It doesn't matter where. When you think about fishing, it's almost like that universal language when it comes to a sport, right? As so many sports are in different countries, Fishing as well is very universal.
So
right?
one of my good buddies, he's actually in Calgary. He used to work for a company where he traveled the world, and he was down in Australia, and he went fishing on a chartered fishing boat out there. He couldn't wait to tell me about it. He's not a fisherman. He came out here one time. I took him fishing. He caught 2 perch. He calls them pricklies, but whatever.
Everyone has their names.
But he's still he's not a fisherman. But I talked to him a week and a half ago, and he's like, when all these restrictions come up, I'm coming back out there, and you're going to take me fishing, and I'm going to catch a walleye. Those are the types of things I want to do. I want to create the passion for our sport. I want to create the passion of the conservation of our sport as well, right? I mean, there's a huge conservation side to it that people don't understand.
Absolutely. And, it's hilarious because I used to get upset when every time a client or a friend would phone me and the first thing they say, "Where are you fishing?" Or they'd leave a voicemail, say, "You're probably off fishing." And I used to be so upset about it. I'd be like, "Man, I work. I run a business. Don't just always assume that." But then I've come to realize and appreciate that, people acknowledge you for your passion, and sometimes they just want to live vicariously through you, right? I mean, I'm not going to say I can catch it all, but there's something about being able to be proud of showing the passion that you have.
I had a lot of people, especially this year, text me or call me, or when they stopped into my office, they'd be like, "Do you ever work anymore?" Yeah, I put in 50 to 55 hours a week at work, but then I still find time to go fishing.
I've been hearing that for a while. It's like my phone's on 24/7 regardless. Anybody that fishes with me, and I feel like I say that term every week now, they know that typically the first thing is, are we in service? And a few of my friends' wives have even had a certain social media name for me when we do trips. But hey, you have to be reachable, but you still have to be able to enjoy what you do, right? So absolutely. Well, we got lots of people checking in this evening, and Barry Halliday. I mean, I don't know if that's any relationship. I mean,
that's my dad.
That's your dad. Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Just saying, Chris is absolutely right when he says he started a fishing career when he's very young. When he was very young, he's always been crazy for his fishing. Fantastic, love you, Dad. If I had read the whole thing first, I would have realized that was Dad. So, hi, Dad. Oh, we got special guest checking in. I see ya. You gonna wave for me? No, yeah, I see ya. I won't tell you who it is, but the intro already said. All right, we got Adam. Hey, Adam. He's agreeing. The Jays, I think it could be the year. Corbin, Kit, how are you? Zach, I saw your question. We'll save that for the open session at the end because we have a guy coming on that you're going to want to ask that question to. Your season. We've been talking a lot about how the season has been very tough here in Alberta. Obviously, with the new normal, we're seeing a major increase in licenses in every province. What has your season been like for the amount you're getting out? Are you finding it's different than other years?
The last few years, there's been a lot, especially during ice fishing season, because you see the villages on the ice. There are a lot of villages on the ice. Right now, I'd say it's pretty hard to tell because of that windstorm that came through about a month ago. It destroyed a lot of stuff. A lot of shacks are on the ice, so it's really hard to tell that way. But I do know when you're out on the ice and you look around, there's a lot of shacks that I would say are kind of close together because you can't fish together. So you have to fish in your own shack. So, yeah, it is what it is. Season so far for fish, the beginning of the year started out pretty good. They are getting a little dormant now. So it is a very finesse type fishing that I've noticed in the last little bit. Like yesterday I was out. It's you can call them in, but they're not biting on anything aggressive. I would have to say the ice fishing seasons for fish wise is probably better than it was last year. Like I'm catching more fish than last year.
Right.
But summer fishing, it was outstanding. So.
Right. I mean, I've only fished Saskatchewan once, and I can say the one time I was there with Jeremy Mortensen I just felt like I could probably just put a bare hook down and catch a fish. Maybe that's just my mentality of Saskatchewan, but it seems like everything you put down, in my case, the ice fishing hole, you have a fish on, and which is going to be cool because it's going to be your favorite body of water that we talk about. But I've always found that the Saskatchewan fishery and even Manitoba, which again I seem to talk about every week, I don't know if I can't say that it's necessarily mismanagement, but in my experience from all the provinces I've fished, Alberta is struggling. Right. So
Saskatchewan has a very good conservation side to it. I don't think they quite match Manitoba on the conservation side with, all barbless hooks, and they have more slot limits on a lot of their fisheries than we do here. We have a really good spot up in Tobin Lake, Nipawin, Saskatchewan, where they are very good at conservation up there, and there's big fish up there, and a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely, there is. One of the many areas of monsters where they're known to exist, right?
Well, I live within, Nipawin's about 3.5 hours away. Last Mountain Lake's just about a half hour. Fort Capel's 45 minutes. Rafferty Reservoir is an hour and 15 minutes. Diefenbaker, you can get there in an hour and a half. Yeah, I mean, there's fish factories out here, so.
Yeah, I guess that makes me a liar. I've actually fished Saskatchewan twice, once to Diefenbaker and once to Last Mountain Lake. So I wish we lived half an hour away. Darren's just asking a question. what's a close area to Grenfell place that you would fish?
Well, Grenfell, you can head out to the Fort Capel chain lakes, but then there's Crooked Lake as well, which I have fished up there during the summer. I've never fished up there during the winter. Again, walleye, perch, burbot. There's even catfish up there and stuff too. So,
yeah. Well, Kevin here is also asking if you fished up around Estevan much. Boundary Dam.
Boundary, I fished there during the summer. If you look on my page, you'll see a video from when I took Mr. Big Jim Teskey out there. He's got that kind of voice or whatever. But yeah, we went out there for bass. We were going to try and target bass. We had to deliver a car to a customer down there. We got on a walleye bite, and I'm sorry, but once I get on a walleye bite, it's pretty tough to leave. You know, every time I threw the hook down there, I was hooking in another one. So
just one more
anchor on the Minn Kota, and yeah, ran out of bait.
Yeah. So I'm actually surprised no one's asked this question yet. What is a pickerel? Do we really dare get into it, or are we just move on?
A pickerel is a chain pickerel, which is a version of a pike.
Oh man, I tell you, all it takes is a pickerel comment in Alberta for everything to just blow up, and it could be probably an endless topic.
It's the same here too.
But let's do 3 episodes on what is a pickerel.
We call pike jack most of the time out here.
Yeah. I think it's like so many species, like you mentioned perch earlier, right? How your friend has a different name. Everyone has a different name for the species. At the end of the day, there's only one name, but every area has its slang for their fish.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about your favorite body of water, which I mentioned earlier is exciting because I've been here before. I know what kind of fishery it is. But Last Mountain Lake, what's your experience been like? What is it like as far as, you know, an outstanding fishery in Saskatchewan?
It is like people come from all over the world to fish that lake. It is outstanding. You can go out there, get skunked. You can go out there one day and catch 100 fish. I've done it. I've done it lots of times. The more you go out there, the more you learn the body of water, just like any body of water. You learn where those fish are. You learn where they move. You learn how they're biting. And I am so lucky to live as close to Last Mountain Lake as I do. I can hit Regina Beach in half an hour. I can go all the way up to Rowan's. I'm there within an hour. It's awesome. That's all I can say is it's an amazing fishery. You can go there in one day. You can catch yourself walleye, jack, burbot, tulibies, perch, like suckers. Like it's full of everything, and it's an amazing body of water.
You know, perch, I know there's a lot of people that don't like fishing for perch for whatever reason, each to their own. But one thing I did notice is that when I fished perch at Last Mountain Lake, I'm not going to lie, it gave up a larger fight in my mind than a walleye would here. Like, it was insane. You'd think you had a monster walleye on, and it comes up just a big, hefty 13-inch perch.
Yeah.
Like, it's phenomenal. I feel like you could probably fish without bait out there.
And this year, like this winter, I've noticed the perch are biting better than they did last year. I don't know if they've just gotten better this year than they were last year. Like they're more aggressive or what. I don't know, but I'm getting more perch bites, and I'm getting better quality perch bites too. So
that's amazing. Well, we're going to go into your favorite species. And some people would think that we talk about walleye a lot. But one thing I'm learning through the show and in talking with people is that tactics of the way they go after specific species can vary in each area. And when I say that, it's more everyone has their preference of fishing for that species. It all varies. But I don't know what you think as far as, you know, maybe some of the stuff you're going to tell us about your favorite species is different than what we feel about it in Alberta.
Well, one of the things I have to say about walleyes is that you can trigger them multiple different ways. And I've fished with a lot of fishermen that are stuck to a certain way. Some guys like to jig. Some guys like to bottom bounce. Some guys like to troll crankbaits. Some guys like the glide baits, Lindy rigs. Like I've got all the stuff on my boat all the time, and I'm not afraid to change to something. I've gone through 7 different tactics before I start catching fish, right? That's the thing that I find that hurts a lot of fishermen when they're fishing for walleyes and they get frustrated and fed up, especially on a big body of water like Last Mountain Lake, is that they do the one thing and one thing only, and they're not catching any fish. So you have to learn to figure out what they're biting on, when they're biting on it, and where they are. And it's not easy. And that's why I spend so much time on my boat.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many angles you can really go at them with. I know for myself, when I am out in a boat, I prefer the bottom bouncing method.
Yeah.
It's something that I've learned that I really enjoy. And I mean, tying a harness is fun. But at the same time, there's times where I've been out with Mitchell where just setting up on that spot and knowing where they're at, I mean, you can run through a ton of bait and a ton of time just catching walleye, right?
Well, I was trolling crankbaits. One of those pictures that you showed at the beginning there, I was trolling crankbaits, caught a 28.5-inch walleye. And I'm looking on my fish finder, and there's a huge school down there. I stopped trolling. I threw a jig down, and we sat there. We probably caught 100 fish.
Absolutely.
It was crazy. But that's kind of the point of the whole trolling. You fish until you find them. You can continue doing it, but sometimes you need to get on the bite.
What is your personal best? Because I heard you mention 28.5, which is my personal best. What's yours?
Best one I had was 30.5-inch, just over 10 pounds. I think it was 10 pounds, 3 ounces, something like that is what it was. And I caught them on. That guy right there. Sorry, light's kind of in the way here.
That's okay. That's a version of a jigging wrap, right?
That is the Shiver Minnow.
Shiver Minnow?
Yeah, that's by Moonshine Lures. So same idea, except it doesn't have the hook in the front. You can see this one's kind of all, you can't because of the light, but this one's all beat up and everything. But yeah, I've caught a lot of fish on these things.
Yeah, so that's a Moonshine tackle. Are they in Canada?
I think they're based out of Minnesota, but they're all over. You can get them Cabela's. You can get them. I've seen them at Canadian Tire. Any year, like Fishing Hole here in Regina, Pokies.
Yep. Pokies, who has actually an amazing. I've been on their website a few times, and it is pretty cool to see the setup they have for a lot of stuff.
They've got a pretty sweet setup, and they deal with a bunch of the tournament guys. They help them with their electronics and everything. So,
yeah, which is really nice to have. I mean, I'm a huge supporter of those local businesses, and really, when you think about it, chains have everything you need, but it's the small owners and operators that need the support too. And I think for many of us, we all know how much we spend on tackle. We don't ever want to repeat it for obvious reasons, but we'll leave that as our little secret, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, talking about favorite tackle, is that the majority of what you're using? You mentioned last night you could do that in an ice fishing in open water, right?
Yeah, you do it. I'll downsize it when I go into ice fishing. Mm-hmm. I think all my smaller ones are in my truck, but yeah, I'll downsize it when I do ice fish. I use those. I'll also use the lipless cranks too. Mm-hmm. Got rattles in them and everything. They're pretty awesome. These are the MGA distribution ones, the timber ones, which I was part of to help develop and that kind of stuff as well. These things are awesome. A bunch of different colors and so on. I use these during the summer too. Caught some 26 inchers, and yeah, they're
nice. And those are made by MGA, did you say?
MGA distribution. It's their timber lineup. It's their in-house lineup. So.
Oh, okay, very nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that out a little bit later.
Yeah.
What about your rod and reel setup? What are you finding that typically works best for you when you're fishing walleye?
Well, I've got a few different ones. If I'm just straight jigging with just a jig and a leech or something like that, during the summer, I typically use either an Abu Garcia or a Fenwick HMX 6 foot medium light with fast action with a Fluger reel. When I start getting into the glide baits and everything, I want something a little heavier. So I actually went with the Timber Nano, which is part of that MGA thing as well, like I was saying. This is super light. It's 20 times stronger than regular carbon steel or carbon fiber, but great backbone when you're ripping. Still got a little bit of more sensitivity in the tip, but it's got a great backbone when you're ripping. And I tell you, there's nothing when you're standing on the boat and you're ripping it up, and all of a sudden you'll whoomp, and you got a fish on, right? And it's just an awesome, awesome feeling.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that action.
So and yes, 6.5 foot medium light with big backbone, and then a 30 series reel to go with it as well. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of the 30 series. I mean, when we're getting into brands and stuff, I know a lot of people have their own personal preference.
Yeah, everybody has their own preference for sure.
I've had it all.
Are nice. The HMXs are nice. Some of the G Loomis ones. It depends what you like because they all feel different for how you like to fish.
Absolutely, they do. And I mean, I've always been a Fluger guy. For my heavyweight rods last year, I switched to Shimano, a 6,000 for when we did catfish in Manitoba, and now I'm a Shimano fan, right? But yeah, I mean, everyone has their preference.
That setup that I just showed you, I went out to Manitoba and I fished off the red 4 catfish, and I used that setup. 14-pound braid with a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader on the end, and yeah, it was everybody I was fishing with like, I don't know if that rod can handle it. It did. So
yeah. Do you know what's hilarious? We have a rod here. I believe it's a Daiwa rod. Kyle Kelm gave it to me, and I've used it for the last 2 or 3 years, and we've tried to catch everything we can on that to see if we can get it to break.
Yeah,
won't happen. It's taken everything down. So, you know, when you get stuck to that one setup you like, I mean, sometimes it can work for multi-species, right? So, now, because I don't know enough about them, maybe you do. Greg's asking, what do you think about the hyperglides and the hyper rattles? I mean, we were already talking about the glides, right?
Hyperglides are very similar to any of the jigging wraps or the moonshines or anything like that. The difference with those is they have the fins on the side of the body that open up, so it falls at a slower rate, right? I've been with buddies that have caught on those. I've never actually purchased and fished it with any of those ones myself because I have such luck with the jigging wraps and the moonshines. I should probably buy them, just because it is a slower fall rate for maybe some of those finicky or fish that are more finicky. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that light bite is everything, right? You know, we've been experiencing it out here too. Sometimes it's just a matter of your setup with just a plain hook. Like it can vary so much, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You probably usually have the problem I have, which we'll talk about it in a bit. But when we did the tournament this week in a cold lake, you know, you buy obviously not 500, but basically 500 different hooks.
Yeah.
And you get to the lake and you use 1 or 2.
Yeah, well, it's like yesterday I went out to go prototype stuff with the timber stuff, so I was using this little prototype thing here, which actually this thing's pretty. I think it's going to be pretty deadly when it does come into production. I did this and one other one. I didn't tie any other ones on, so.
You know, actually, Darren gave me one of those something very similar to try on. Lee's not here yet, but I dare you to bring that up when he comes on the show, because he has one that I thought would not catch fish, but it's the 5-inch.
Yeah.
And it catches.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It catches. So, I mean, you just don't know, right? There's stuff I've had in my tackle box that I probably have never used that would have caught fish and ended my skunk streak. So who knows?
Different things. You know, when you're in that rut, you got to just try different things. So
I would agree. You know, you kind of talked about it earlier, and we talked about it last night about your safe handling tip. And, you know, we're still seeing a lot of situations in social media where it is all about the picture. You kind of mentioned last night about the importance of, you know, get that quick photo, get it back in the water. And it's not even about catching every fish, but what's your experience been with with having to deal with these catch and release situations about sending them back, letting them grow. The debate we have, are you a harvester or are you a let them grow, or what's the situation for you in Saskatchewan?
Well, the government does put limits on us, which I think is great. I throw back 99% of my fish. It just, yeah, I mean, I keep enough for supper and that's pretty much it type thing. So, as far as the catch and release and that kind of thing during the summer, even if you're not keeping fish, I'll keep my live well running. If I get a big fish, I'll throw it in there, gather my thoughts, gather everything, because you're excited when you catch a 28, 29, 30 inch fish. You're excited. So take that time, put it in the live well, catch your breath, settle down, make sure you got everything that you need, right? And then get ready and take that picture. Like I said, there's lots of different tables out there that can tell you that a 28 and a half inch fish is going to be 9.59, pounds, right? So you don't need, unless it's a tournament situation, you don't need that. And a bunch of tournaments are going to this catch, record, release now too. The Fish Donkey and this new KWT series coming out of Manitoba, which is now in Saskatchewan and Ontario as well. You measure them, you take the picture, you get it back with a video proving that fish took off, right? So it's all about the management, about the conservation, making sure those big fish survive. Even the small fish, you don't want to kill the small fish either if you're going to release them. So
no, and he's not here yet, and we'll bring him on in a bit. But we're talking about the catch and release. Lee caught a fish this weekend that I've never seen anything like it in my life. If any of you have him on Instagram, Team Elite Fishing, or on Facebook, I even shared the picture. We're talking about the catch and release and how you handle these fish when you catch them. To me, it looked like something that was probably mishandled when it was younger. That could be jumping to conclusions. We'll ask Mitch when we bring him in here. But
yeah, it's tough to say. It could be that. It could be that it got in a fight with some other fish at some other time. It's really tough to say. The way that it was, I would think that it's probably mishandled. But
yeah, absolutely. Bill's making. I know he's not making fun of me because he's a new dad and he doesn't get to go fishing anymore. Apparently, I sound like Seth Rogen. I don't know how true that is, but you know what? I'll take that as a compliment, Bill. So hope.
Do you follow PK Lures on Facebook?
I will say no because I don't believe I do.
Okay, you should. They make awesome ice fishing lures. And one of the guys that I know, he's their pro staff here in Saskatchewan, Tim Jenny, posted a video on there where he created basically a live well in the ice to keep those big fish into. So he actually held the record on Last Mountain Lake for the biggest ice walleye, and I think it's been broken now, but he held the record there for a while. And
he did.
Yeah.
So, and I had actually never even heard of him until, I mentioned Jeremy Mortensen brought me out there to meet his family and see his boy play, and we did some fishing, and actually Tim came up in conversation, which I was like, how big? How big? Really?
Yeah. So if you get a chance, look at that video. Yeah, I think it's on YouTube too, where he basically took his auger and created a channel in there for like a homemade live well during the winter for these fish. So, because especially when it's cold, if they're out of the water, they're freezing pretty quick. Their eyes are going to freeze. Like,
it doesn't take long. I just noticed Lloyd saying that he lives in Regina Beach. So I feel like that was an open invite. I don't know if you're right on the lake, Lloyd, but make some room. I'll move in. I'll spend half my time at your house, half my time at Chris's. Marcy will enjoy the peace and quiet. She probably actually really enjoy the peace and quiet. And Saskatchewan, here I come. It's done.
Well, you won't have a shortage of places to stay, that's for sure.
That much I know. Well, we're going to go into the next topic. And what's the point in bringing in another topic without bringing in a couple of people that some people might know, some people might not. In any case, we'll bring them both in. We're going to welcome Mitchell Lilley, Mr. Lee Marchand. Guys, welcome to the show.
Howdy, guys.
Hey, guys.
Mitch, you're odd man out here. Where's your Jays gear, bud?
Oh, no. He looks blacked out or something.
Lee is a little bit lagging, but I mean, it could be because he's blowing up over fame of, doing what he's been doing here recently. I don't know if I want to praise him too much because I fish with the dude. I don't want him to have an ego, right? But before we talk about it, the reason why I brought you guys in is one of the things Chris and I were talking about, and I can't truly speak for this because the three of you own a boat and I don't. So let's talk boat safety tips. Chris, let's start with you. What do you have for a good boat safety tip for people out there?
Well, it's like I said last night. One of the biggest things is make sure you have those life jackets and the right size life jackets for the people that are on your boat. That is a big thing, and then the communication to let people know where you're going. Make sure you have your cell phone charged. If you don't have that, make sure you got a radio with you or something. And then there's lots of other things about who has the right of way on the water and that kind of thing. But
yeah, Lee, give us a boat safety tip.
One big thing I think is real important is make a list before you go out, and always have that list with you so that you can double check it every single time before you go out. Because I don't know how many times I went out there and forgot my bail bucket, which might not be a huge deal. A lot of people have bilge problems, but if you get pulled over, DNR stops by, you don't have your bail bucket. It's something simple that double checking that list and making sure you have everything. You'll have it the next time, and make sure no matter how big your gas tank is, bring extra gas, because I've ran out of gas 2 times, and it's awful when you're in the middle of the lake. And trying to flag people down, it's terrible, especially when some bad weather's coming and you planned on being off the lake before that. Like I was at Gull Lake last year.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened to me. I knew that the bad weather was coming at 4:00. I was making my way back across the lake, and all of a sudden, out. And then you're trying to paddle, and it is no fun.
Yep, I've been caught on Gull Lake before as well. And you talk about a checklist. Here's the one I like. Don't bring a life jacket. I already have one that fits. Well, I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 people that invite me on my boat, and Lee and Mitch know what it's like. It doesn't matter the size of the boat. I take up a ton of real estate. I mean, I would say even though I don't own a boat, bring your own life jacket even, right? Just because someone says they have what's going to fit for you or is going to work for you may not necessarily. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going out on a boat if I don't have that safety device, especially considering I can't swim. Like fishing, go figure. Mitch?
Yeah, no, there's lots of things. A good rope. So if that person runs out of gas, you can pull them in. Booster cables are always a good thing, because I've ran into a lot of guys floating dead in the water because their boat, just the battery's dead. And yeah, all your safety stuff, your flashlight, fire extinguisher, especially if you have a in-tank fuel tank inside your boat, you need that fire extinguisher here in Alberta, or you're going to get a ticket. And that's how I learned that one.
It's a tough lesson to learn, right? And I'll guarantee you, again, I don't own a boat. I wouldn't have known that. But I'd be interested to see how many people that maybe own a boat didn't even know that. I don't know if that's a requirement for you guys there, Chris, in Saskatchewan or not.
yeah, it is. And when I bought my boat, the dealer made sure that everything was in there too. So the bail bucket and the fire extinguisher and all the whistle and all that stuff was already in there too, which is awesome. So that's you could go buy a secondhand boat, but you got to make sure that you know what's in it.
Right. And it's funny, I actually asked you if Saskatchewan's like that. Why do I have the feeling that it's probably a national type requirement, safety requirement, right?
Yeah.
Not a boat owner, don't swim. No, Kevin, I'm not just standing up. I'm just going to leave that one alone. All right. Well, we've covered most of the topics. Now, Chris, I know you kind of mentioned it. You've done some tournament fishing, right?
Yeah.
And your daughter was on earlier. You already admitted she outfishes you on all levels. You're not in denial like I am over Marcy out fishing me or Lee or Mitch out fishing me. I'm going to bring it up because 4 of us here have done tournament fishing. Many people watching have done tournament fishing. How do you guys feel when it comes to the pressure of knowing you're catching to win or catching to beat the dude sitting beside you for 3 days to win? What's the experience? Do you guys find that it's a lot of pressure for you? We're going to start with you, Lee.
No. Well, I mean, I was fishing next to you, right? So you're constantly in my ear nagging me all the time. So if I get one up on you, it feels great. But yeah, at the same time, if you get one up on me, I'm gonna be the cranky bear. But no, I enjoy it. It's I mean, we'd be out there fishing if there was a tournament or not. So you win or you lose, it's always nice to win, but you know, as long as you're out there fishing, that's the main point. Even if it's minus 40.
Even if, but you know, again, like we talked about earlier, just good to get out, right?
Yeah.
Mitch, your experience, I mean, you've experienced the guide life, the tournament life, stuff like that. Do you find that you put that pressure on yourself a lot as well?
Yeah. If I know the species, like I know it good, I put a lot of pressure on myself and I'll ride myself hard for it. But like this weekend, it was pretty relaxed because I don't fish lake trout that much. Erin, once she caught one, she got really aggressive. And yeah, if there was a fish coming on the flasher, I was almost getting whacked in the face with a rod just so I'd get out of the way. And that's why she beat me, probably.
That's probably exactly why. Marcy told me 2 weeks ago, and I'm not going to lie, I know she's watching. I was a little bit upset. She's like, I figured out the key to catching these fish. And I'm like, what's that? She's like, not to listen to you on boat pulling up and setting the hook when you tell me to. I quit listening to you and go figure it works. Erin's laughing. I think Erin's agreeing.
Oh yeah, she was just pulling up fish like one after another, just getting hit nonstop. And I landed one, I think, and lost a couple. But yeah, she whooped me, and yeah, I got to redeem myself maybe this weekend or the next weekend.
I think we all need a little bit of redemption, except for one guy, which we're going to talk about next. Chris, the pressure. Is the pressure on for you?
I don't really know. Not really. I just enjoy getting out there. I haven't fished a lot of tournaments. I've fished some tournaments. I mostly do it just because of the guys that I'm going with, you know, the partner that I'm going with, whatever. They want to go out and have fun. I'm more about, I love testing new things. I love trying new things. I love getting out there and seeing what I can make happen. And I put myself more pressure on myself with that stuff than I do with the tournament type of thing. So.
Oh, so it's not just me, is what I'm basically being told here. It's not just me, but it's all about me, right? Talking to tournaments, Chris, I know you weren't there, but I'm sure you've probably seen a little bit on social media. It was the Cold Lake, the inaugural men's shed Cold Lake tournament. Cold Lake stood up to its expectations. It was cold. It was frigid. My man Lee pulls off a third place. Fourth moved into third place in the competition out of 400 people, which I'll just say I'm proud of you. Am I really? Yeah, I probably am. What was your experience this weekend, Lee? Oh, I might have actually muted you. Here, let me see. Start over, bud. I muted you because I thought the feedback was from you.
It probably is. My screen is lagging here, so sorry.
I promise it wasn't deliberate. I didn't mute you deliberately. Tell us your experience this weekend. What do you think?
It was a blast. It was the first tournament that I've ever fished in up here, and the first time I ever used that Fish Donkey app. So it's nice trying something new. And like I get to fish with you. You don't get to fish that lake a lot. I think I fished that lake twice with you. Uh, and before this year, I only fished out like 4 times as well. And it was fun having everyone on that same app, so you can really keep track of how everyone's doing, and has the wild card, which is nice because then everyone can have fun, and there's not pressure on if you're there for a prize, just getting that first, second, or third place finish. But yeah, it was fun. I would have had fun fishing with you regardless. So I mean, it was just a bonus to finish on top. The only thing would have been better is if the Jays would have got a starting pitcher while we were out there, and that just would have been great.
I think it would have been awesome if we could have listened to a game versus me singing, right, and kicking stuff. And
it's true, yes.
Mitch, it's come up now twice. What's your experience with the new process of entering fish? What did you think of the Fish Donkey app?
Oh, I thought it's pretty smooth. Like, you just get that picture on the board. Well, first off, if you just take that picture, as soon as you pull it out, that personal picture with the fish, then you can just put it down, hit that nose up against the bump board, take that picture, then just start your video, and it's just one clean motion down into the water and smooth sailing. So I thought it worked really well.
And Chris, I know you brought it up as well. Have you used the Fish Donkey app?
I have not used the Fish Donkey app. No.
Okay. What was the other one you were mentioning there as well?
The KWT series. They started in Manitoba last year. Now they're moving into Saskatchewan and northwestern Ontario. It looks like it's going to be pretty deadly because they just got hooked up with head-to-head out of the States.
Okay.
And you can go nationals, you can go down to the States to fish down there, all that kind of stuff. Total prize at the end is like $250,000. So,
oh, that's a nice little paycheck.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about as far as, I mean, for me personally, I love the app. I already have wondered, though, when it comes to user friendliness, what are your guys' thoughts? Is it a one-man or a two-person project? Lee?
Oh, it's definitely a two-person project. It especially when you're trying to take into consideration like a smooth catch and release and doing as little harm to the fish as you possibly can to get them back in that water. It definitely helps to have the extra set of hands there.
Yep. Especially when they're as big as some of those lake trout are, right?
This is true, yes.
Mitch, we already know Erin is more than capable of doing stuff on her own without you. So for your experience, are you able to operate Fish Donkey by yourself, or do you need Erin's help?
Oh, I probably need Erin's help. You could always set it up, like put it up against something, your backpack or off a table or something. But that second hands will just make it that more efficient getting that fish back in the water right away.
Yep, I would agree with you. And one thing Lee and I talked about this weekend was he even mentioned it. It makes it really hard when you're tournament fishing, when you get a fish that you've put in so much time for, like that fish, where you want to be able to savor the moment through a picture, and it's almost ruined by having to make sure you're following all the rules, right? And, we talked about handling even earlier with Chris. And one thing I noticed in this tournament is with the cold weather, we're seeing a lot of fish being handled outdoors. And as we know, the minute they're out of the water into that ambient air temperature, I mean, look what it does to our hands when they're wet. It has to make you wonder what kind of harm fish are experiencing when we're utilizing them in a nice tournament like this, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think they even recommended to try to measure all your fish inside the tent just for that warmth factor. I think they brought it up in the regulations there, but sometimes you just can't, I guess.
Yeah, what's it like open water, Chris? Is there specific regulations you think that will be maybe enforced with some of these new apps for these tournaments?
Well, the summer ones, even though the winter KWT ones that they've done, there are two-man teams that are there. So I think definitely having a two-man team makes a big difference, because you don't want to be setting up on the windshield of your boat or on your chair trying to get a pick, you know, that kind of stuff. It's not conducive to get that fish back healthy. So
Yeah. Yeah, and Greg Rice is even saying he's done the Moose Lake tournament a couple years now, and that he loves it and the excitement, but the stress he doesn't really like. And I think that shows in Greg's hairdo, right? I mean, any of us that know Greg know that he doesn't have much hair left. So, Greg, I couldn't resist. Adam had a comment on here about tournaments, that if you're fishing tournaments not feeling some sort of stress or pressure, you better be having a very good day or you likely shouldn't be fishing it. And I think that's very true. Adam and I,
one of my good buddies, he's a really good fisherman here at the SWT, the Saskatchewan Walleye Trail. He just goes and has fun, and he usually always finishes in the top 10.
yeah,
If you can go out there and have fun, whatever is going to happen, right? So
yeah, I should probably take those tips a little bit more from all of my friends. I think Lee's laughing. Lee's like, yeah, it was a quiet ride home, dude. I fed you your McDonald's, and that was about all we talked about was milkshakes and cheeseburgers.
Yep.
Only got a few minutes left in the show, and Zach had a question on here, which I think will probably tie into maybe Lee. We'll pick you out on this one. Any tips for depths of fishing Cold Lake this weekend?
I think, like, with my experience with Cold Lake, which isn't a ton of experience, but I find this time of year, once it starts getting real cold, I like to start and try to find 100 foot of water, and then I'll drill inward and I'll try find 75, 80 feet, and then I'll drill outward and try find 120 feet. And then I'll start shallow, and I'll work my way out until I find those fish. And
yeah, it's all about being able to stagger those depths, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with so many species, Chris, I don't know what your experience is. Do you start shallow, work your way deep, and does that vary throughout the seasons for you?
Yeah, it does vary. Not 100-foot depths, but I'll typically vary anywhere from 8 to 12 feet kind of early in the year, then kind of go down. I go down to about 30 is kind of my max, because you bring walleye or perch up further than that, you risk hurting them, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if we're talking about catch release situations,
even during the summer, I see people fishing, 40, 45, 50 feet for walleye, and I'm just like, I don't even go there. I don't even try to go there. So
yeah, when they're not, it's not like Lakers, where, like Lee said, we're fishing them in that 100-foot mark. It's species that's designed a little bit differently.
if I pulled up a 28-inch walleye and its bladder burst and I had to keep that fish, it is what it is. But I sure wouldn't be happy about it.
Yeah, I would agree with you absolutely. All right. Well, we're pretty much wrapping up the show. Anything else the three of you want to add?
No, I'm good.
So that it's quiet because you guys know I'm just stringent with my time, right?
Well, just basically want to say thanks for having me on, and
Chris, it's been awesome
experience. And yeah,
and just tell people again how they can reach out to you on social media with your information with Natural Born Fisherman.
Yeah, so we got Natural Born Fisherman. You can search us there. It's at NB Fisherman on Facebook and Instagram. And then there's the Natural Born Fisherman Fishing Forum on there too. So guys, join that. Share some pics, share some videos, share some tips, whatever you want to do. Just get it out there and yeah.
Just share that experience, which I think we've all learned is very important. Lee, where can people check out your outrageous catch that pulled off for third place, or the double-mouthed lake trout?
It's on my Instagram at Team Elite Fishing, or just on my Facebook page.
Awesome. Mitch?
Yeah, Instagram, Northwest Mitch, and on Facebook, Alberta Fishing Trips. We've got lots of good content all the time, so check her out.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Chris, thanks again for joining us. Next week, we've got James of Fish Big Apparel. I know almost everyone's heard of Fish Big Apparel. If you don't have some of their swag kicking around in either your truck, your closet, or on the shelf, I think mine is right over here, then you guys are in for a treat, because next week we'll be talking to James a little bit about his organization and his experience. And yeah, Chris, Mitch, Lee, I just want to thank you guys for joining the show again this week. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone else next week, again with James of Fish Big Apparel. And check us out, YouTube, Facebook, shoot me a message on the Other Line Canada. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me.